All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're really excited to get into our conversations from the Black Beauty Supply Chain Collective that we have now titled Greenwood Beauty to really focus on transforming the Black beauty industry supply chain. And this evening, we're starting by going back to our roots, which is agriculture. And we've really been passionate to understand more innovation around ingredients. We know how much ingredient formulation has been a topic of interest, of concern in the beauty industry recently. And so I was very excited to hear about my mentor, James, and his work at the Beauty Farm and introducing us to amazing new farmers and really making the connection again because we don't know what we don't know. And when we looked at the need to innovate agriculture in the supply chain, it made so much sense to go back to our roots in farming and really connect with Black farmers that are doing amazing work around the country. So this is going to be a really great conversation. We're excited to grow our network and really start to transform the supply chain. And so, to get into the conversation, I really want to start with both of our guests introducing themselves so you can get to know who they are, how they got into the world of farming, and really what their calling is all rooted in. So, James, so let's start with you. So, if you can introduce yourself, where you're farming, the whole story of how this all came to be, and what led you into agriculture.
Sure. Well, Candace, thank you for the introduction. Just a little background. I am a serial entrepreneur of many, many years. Ran internet companies in the 90s and got into real estate in the early 2000s. And as part of that, have worked on a lot of projects here in Atlanta around entrepreneurship, particularly entrepreneurship for people of color. So was the first executive director of the Russell Center, went on to help build Pittsburgh Yards, which is a 31-acre campus for African American entrepreneurs here in Atlanta. And as part of that conversation, the mayor of Tuskegee asked me to come and see if there's a possibility of building a similar campus in Tuskegee. I went down, talked to my father, and recognized that my grandfather was a petty officer for the Tuskegee Airmen. And he said, you've got roots down there. You need to go see what's going on down there. And met a handful of farm families and city leaders, and just sort of fell in love with Tuskegee and all that's been going on since 1881, when Mr. Allen and Booker T. Washington really helped put Tuskegee on the map with the Tuskegee Institute, which is now Tuskegee University. And so meeting those farm families, it became clear this was bigger than just an entrepreneurial campus opportunity, and really an opportunity to connect a number of Black and brown farmers with entrepreneurs of color that actually could buy their products directly. And a lot of those people were buying them, off the internet, sight unseen, didn't really know the origin, didn't know who they were supporting, and really begin to help rebuild downtown Tuskegee and then bring hospitality, food, and beverage. So we're about 4 years into that journey. And in doing so, I've adopted sort of 4 mothers in the community, one of which is Josie Badamosi. Josie has 46 acres, but she has 2.5 acres of organic blueberries, and really have been spending a lot of time with her the last couple of years. And she encouraged me to buy a parcel just right across the street from her, which we purchased 3 years ago. It's 8.5 acres, and is the first of the beauty farms that we'll be launching throughout the world. But Tuskegee is deserving of being the very first place that a Black entrepreneur sort of starts on their sort of agricultural journey, particularly with our agricultural history, Booker T. Washington, Tuskegee Institute, all of that. And so I've actively been working with Mother Josie to plan out our farm, and we're really focused on growing botanical crops that can be used for natural beauty products, as well as for natural dyes, and then lastly, natural teas and beverages. And of course, that part comes in line with what Mother Josie is doing, and that not only does she sell fresh organic blueberries on amazing, like 30 or 40-year-old plants, but she actually is beginning to sell the leaves as well, and we're beginning to make soaps and things like that out of that product. And so in being in Tuskegee over the last few years, I ran across Tuskegee Honey and Jacqueline and her work. And she's been giving me mentorship and direction around hibiscus, which is something I'm planning to start this year as one of our primary crops, along with Hopi black dye, sunflower seeds, and calendula, and chamomile, and some other things. So this year will be our first full crop.
That is amazing. Wow, tremendous progress. And I'm just really excited to see it flourish and see all these things come to fruition. So Jacqueline, I'd love to hear more of your story.
Oh, okay. Wow, I was listening deep into James's stories. They were pretty cool. I kind of started by accident with the honeybees. I had purchased some land in Tuskegee with the intent of building some tiny homes, primarily for the student population, and ran into little roadblocks and decided, okay, well, I'm going to do something different. And I literally to this day don't quite remember where I got the idea of, oh, well, maybe I'll have honeybees. So started with
Right.
one bee, found a local bee mentor. Then one hive ended up being 10, and then 10 ended up being 20. It's been a journey. No one could have told me 10, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, you couldn't have told me, oh, you're going to be a beekeeper and farming and a pollinator habitat and all this other stuff. So the bees, I guess I like to call myself a natural beekeeper because I don't use any chemicals or pesticides. Not pesticides, treatments with our bees. And the honey's really good. The first year, I had more honey than I knew what to do with, and was like, oh my God, how am I going to get rid of all this honey? You know, because we had like 5-gallon buckets just sitting around the house of honey. And sold out really quickly. And I was like, okay, this is good. So second year increased to 20 hives, and one day went to the bee yard and all the hives had left. So that was pretty bizarre. So got another 10 hives, and that year we had a late freeze. So we didn't harvest any honey, but by that time I had a waiting list of people wanting bottles of honey. And everybody waited till the following year and, basically sold out within like minutes. Once I emailed everybody, hey, okay, we're going to have honey. Like, how much do you want? Like, blah, 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 blah. So ended up, in terms of supply and demand, and our honey now sells for $40 for a 1 pound, which is probably double what all my beekeepers sell. But for me, Tuskegee honey, it's like a fine wine, and I know that sounds, that sounds kind of like, not humble, but the people are only going to give me what they can with everything falling into place. So I said, oh, well, why don't you get more hives? I mean, beekeeping is one of those industries that I could have 100 hives, but the weather could turn bad, or the bees could, develop pairs. Anything could happen. So I've been content to have around 10 to 15 hives. If they produce honey, we bottle honey. We have a waiting list. And now we actually just recently, it took a couple years to get it done, and I'm really kind of proud of this. Our honey is now being sold in the Tuskegee Airmen gift shop.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
So I actually went out there and took a selfie with my little on the shelf. Like, ooh.
Yes, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and I love that, it's locally grown and produced honey, and now it's sitting in a museum, albeit, maybe not that important in the big picture of life. But to me, it says, wow, this is really cool. This is how it should be. And I'm very happy that the corporation behind these, not just that museum, but other museums across the country, that I met their criteria and I was able to get my honey in there, and that's like a good thing. So in working with the bees, I actually started growing other things, and I actually used to be director of distance education at Tuskegee. So I'm okay with technology, and so started writing a few grants to grow more things at the bee yard,
Mm-hmm.
and got one grant and got another grant, and the hibiscus grant was the result of submitting 3 different grant applications over about 3 years and getting denied, turned down, getting rejected. So when I
Mm-hmm.
submitted the hibiscus grant, it was after much canoodling, cajoling by a friend of mine, like, oh, you should just read what the reviewer said. Just read the reviewer's comments and just fix it. You're like, why are you not applying? So
Right.
that's how I ended up with the hibiscus grant, because I'd already been growing it, and my farm is a dry farm. We don't have any water supply other than natural rainfall irrigation.
Mm.
So it's come down to researching, okay, what crops are drought tolerant,
Yeah.
will grow in clay soil, will grow in prairie soil. But sometimes the soil, if we have heavy rains like we've been having lately, plants or trees can be sitting in standing water for a week or two. And for some plants, that basically suffocates them, so your crops die. But hibiscus is it really likes Alabama, but you have a
Mm.
very narrow, I mean, if we don't have rain for a month, it doesn't care. It's still green, still leafy, still doing its thing. If we have rain every day for a month, it's still happy campers. Um, but what we found is the deer love it. So as I was telling James, you've got to protect your crop in this area from deer, or they will eat it to the ground. You will spend hours, pay people going out there planting, harvesting, planting and whatnot, and come back the next morning and it's all gone, and you got to start over. But
Wow.
I was getting ready to say, hibiscus in our zone 8B has a very short window from planting to harvest. You've got to get it in the ground after the last possible frost, which traditionally is Good Friday, which we're coming up on that.
Mm.
And you probably can harvest up until the first frost, which according to the Farmer's Almanac was sometime in early November. And
Mm.
then your hibiscus plants are, for the calyces, the red part, are only going to be harvestable in this zone for about 4, maybe 5 weeks. So, but you're constantly in there. You've got to go in there and you've got to harvest like every two or three times a week, because
Yeah.
they grow at different rates. So hibiscus has been a really good crop, and I think I'm mostly tickled about the fact that of all the farmers and people and visitors who said, you need a tractor, you need water, you can't grow here, nothing's going to grow out here. And when I sat back at one point in this last season and looked out over a sea of over 600 hibiscus plants doing really, really well, and there's lots of video and stuff on our Instagram and YouTube that shows the field in action. I'm really proud. I just didn't give up when people were telling me, no, you can't do this. This isn't going to work. I mean, I just feel like you have to try and figure out a way to make it work. Or as my student volunteers from the university come and tell me, they say, oh, pivot. And I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean? Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. I get it. Yeah. From tiny houses to hibiscus
Yeah.
plants. So that's kind of my story.
Wow, that's so interesting. And I feel like both of you all have an interesting story in terms of how you got into farming. And so I'm curious if you felt like the calling to this industry was generational or economic or spiritual. How would you define like what's at the root and what drives you, on a day-to-day basis?
Hmm.
I'll let Jacqueline go first.
Thanks. You know, I enjoy being outdoors. In on my land, it's very open. It's there's not a lot of noise pollution. Like you don't hear a lot of cars, but you hear nature, and then you walk out there, sun is shining, and the weather's fine. I mean, even in 100-degree weather, it is slightly spiritual. It's very calming, and I think one thing I've noticed what the Hibiscus Project has done, it's brought people to the farm and families, for harvesting for like you pick of the hibiscus. And if I get nothing else out of the grant, I was thinking the other day, I've made a whole lot of new friends, a whole lot of new people who have similar interests. They love hibiscus. There was a group of ladies coming almost like every hibiscus last season. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start a Facebook group, just for people who love hibiscus, like you gals, because then we're sharing recipes and tips and tricks on growing, in addition to all the other science stuff, and data that's being collected and reported about growing hibiscus. So for me, actually, I think at this point, it's the fellowship of the land.
Yeah.
And we set up I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I'm saying it's very, very communal.
Yes, it really is. James?
Yeah, well, I want to hear your answer as well, by the way, Jacqueline, because I've talked to you many times before, but I didn't know why you were there or what you feel. I think, my interest is genetic. So my mother's grandfather had a farm here in Atlanta, and it was bought by the city, and it's now Coyne Middle School. And so I remember as a kid, it was like he had a big backyard, but I didn't realize that, eventually that would become a school that as I was growing, I left Atlanta to go to Houston and West Palm Beach. And when I came back, it was just a school. And I never really connected that that's probably where our family got a lot of their food from, in the 50s and 40s, 50s and 60s, And so from that perspective, I've always enjoyed sort of walking and picking tomatoes and stuff like that, even as a tiny, tiny kid. I think the other side of it is I also love nature and have bought properties in the Tennessee mountains and all these places. And it's one thing to sort of sit on a deck and stare at trees and, listen to the birds. It's something else to plant something and watch it grow and harvest it and pick it and then take the tomatoes or cucumbers inside and eat it,
Yeah.
So I've been interested in growing food product for a long time and have always had a garden here in Atlanta at my house. And I'm part of the community garden as well. I think for Tuskegee, what is most interesting, and I think I learned this again, with Mother Josie and Brother Larry at Shady Grove Blueberry, was that there is value in land that particularly for Black people, I think we disconnected from. So our grandmothers and grandfathers would say, we're going to hold the land for the family and we're going to keep it in the family because one day this land will be, really valuable and it'll be what the family stands on. And a lot of sort of city dwellers sell it and go buy what I call a pink Cadillac or something. Like they just don't understand the value of the land. When I go to the blueberry patch and see, 30, 40, 50 people out there picking and you pick and enjoy, they're snacking as they're eating. They want to sit down for 2 hours and talk about what they're going to make, the blueberry pie they're going to make. It really warms my heart. And to Jacqueline's point, it gives Larry and Josie, it just warms their heart as well, So I'm really interested in getting to the point of meeting natural beauty makers and helping them sort of connect the product that we planted at the beginning of the season. It came out of the ground and now it's a shampoo or it's a bar of soap. I think that is a very interesting connection. I think the last thing that really inspires me is entrepreneurially, I look at some of the largest companies in the world like LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Hennessy, Moet, and they own Tiffany's and they own Louis Vuitton handbags and they own a bunch of perfume companies. But At one point, they were the third largest company in Europe, and they're all agricultural based. So they have 12 different divisions, and each division has a castle, right? So they have a castle that grows cows so they can turn them into leather handbags. They have a castle that grows flowers and put that into perfume. And so it really dawned on me as Black people, like, we were brought to America for agriculture. We had millions of acres of land. We have a lot less now. We still have a lot, but a lot less now. And the question is, when you look at LVMH, their ambassadors are usually Black and brown people. So exactly. Pharrell Williams is the genius behind LVMH's turnaround. Beyonce and Jay-Z were Tiffany ambassadors. Like, if you look at the people selling, it's Black people, but for some reason, Black people in America can't figure out the 20 acres that our aunt left us. We can't turn that into a product. Exactly. And so Beauty Farms Worldwide was created because we ran an accelerator. Kuba Dawkins led it. I was a part of it. And we had 28 natural beauty makers. And it was clear they did not have a supply chain. Like they were just, whatever was on Amazon is what they were ordering from. And they were ordering at really high prices.
Right.
If you pay retail and you make a product, you can't sell it wholesale because you pay retail for your ingredients. So it really became interesting and inspiring to think one day I'll have a farm and I can sell directly. And that's how Beauty Farm came to be. It really was inspired by that cohort of natural beauty makers wanting to be able to come out to the farm, get the product, make it in a barn, make it in volume, be able to sell it directly, and actually make a profit as a business. And so that's inspiring me. It may be a bad experiment. It may go wrong, and I just sit on the farm in a hammock and take a nap and drink, lemonade with hibiscus at Jacqueline's farm. But I think as we roll out the one in Tuskegee and over time roll out other beauty farms around the world, we're building a supply chain for Black and brown people that they can be proud of and they can make products from.
Absolutely, yes. I know it's a very powerful shift because I don't think that there has been a time that we've been more conscious about shifting to becoming producers and not only consumers in the industries that we're in. And I also feel like there's been no better time than now than to actually commit to doing it, because, James, we've had this conversation for years. And I just kind of felt like just all of a sudden I was like, you know what, we got to do this now, because I'm sure you all see every time a new season goes by and the potential of a harvest and what it can produce and stuff, that there's timing. The timing shows you that it's time to, for lack of a better phrase, it's harvest time. Like it's harvest time in a new way. That's kind of like one of my favorite phrases. But I think what God is trying to show us is that we already have the resources, we already have it. Like we could literally create our own supply chain tomorrow if we were intentional about it. So I think this is a phenomenal start with just the intentionality. And the fact that we power these industries, we also have the money to build our own as well. So, and for some reason, the past few weeks, I've talked to a lot of people who own land or recently inherited land too. So I hope everyone, this is piquing your interest, because there's a lot that we can do, with what we already own too.
I agree. I tell you, Candace, being a mostly tech entrepreneur over the years, I've learned a lot from Josie and Jacqueline and other farmers in Tuskegee. And there are lots of people farming in Tuskegee, by the way, which makes me happy. From watermelons to hibiscus to honey, a lot of people doing interesting things, sort of under the radar, as I would say, as a sort of a big city guy. I think the thing is that nature has its own pace. Whereas in technology, you can download some software and spend a weekend and write a new product. Like when you plant a tree, it takes an hour to dig a hole for a tree. It takes 3 or 4 years for the tree to get to a size where it might bear fruit, Jacqueline's point, the deer may nibble on it and eat your tree, right? And so I think it's important for beauty makers and people who are buying products to respect the farmer and understand there is a pace to it, but it's also, that's why there's value. And I'm going to build on Jacqueline a little bit. She can talk about this, but Jacqueline knows something about growing hibiscus and has been working on her own flavors and doing her own things. Like we have in the Black community, deep, deep, deep knowledge in agriculture. One last example I'll give is that there is a gentleman who's been working for Tuskegee for decades as a contract farmer. He helps students sort of, if they get a grant to plant a certain type of cotton or whatever, he's the guy you go to. And just thinking about what he knows and what he's learned and that value really not being underutilized,
Yeah, right. The knowledge transfer of all this. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I always enjoy talking to Jacqueline because she always gives me new insights around hibiscus and what she's doing. So.
Yeah, there's so much we can glean in this, becoming a new, I want to say a new industry. Like it's innovating the industry in a different way because of course technology has advanced in so many ways too. So how can we leverage that? So that actually leads to the next question because we kind of have to examine like the current reality of how we can actually do this. If we're saying we're engineering a new supply chain, right? So what are the biggest barriers Black farmers are facing today when it comes to trying to access large commercial markets like the beauty industry? And that will kind of give us a sense of, what solutions need to be in place.
Barriers. I would say in terms of barriers, at least, whether it's honey or hibiscus or other farm-related projects, it's getting your name out there. It's letting people know you exist. And not all farmers are like James into technology and understanding technology and social media and how to use it. I have gone places and people are like, aren't you the honey lady? I follow you on Instagram. Or I'm like, hi, So, trying to work with other farmers and teach them about technology. Because once you get your name out there and you have a good product, the rest will come to you. But sometimes I will admit, I have experienced biases from our own people about our products, but it's a small percentage. I would say it's probably less than maybe 2% of people I come in contact with. So sometimes I try to educate them and be polite, and that's about all you can do. But I think whether it's Miss Josie's blueberries or a quart of blueberries from Publix, they're not the same. It's different. It's so much better. And then when you're getting it from the source, I think that's why when people go to Miss Josie's farm and they're enjoying the tasting and the picking and seeing where your food comes from. And it's the same thing that I've seen in people's faces when they come and they're picking hibiscus and they're learning about hibiscus. And most people, like James said, have only ever bought hibiscus off of Amazon. And I bought hibiscus off of Amazon and compared it to my dried hibiscus and asked friends also who are familiar with hibiscus. There is no difference. There is a big difference in fresh. The source. I don't use chemicals. People are always, with an appointment to come to the farm and see where your product is being grown, how it's being grown. So barriers I've experienced, somewhat biases, somewhat getting your name out there, but that getting your name out there, and having a good reputation, that comes in in a short period of time, maybe a couple of years after you've been doing it. People know you and you have a customer base that speaks highly of you.
Yeah.
But they can be overcome. All the people who told me I couldn't grow anything.
Right, can look at you.
My favorite folks. Yeah.
All right. And how would you describe some of those biases that you've encountered?
That my honey's not as good, or the hibiscus is not as good because I'm a Black woman farmer. So it can't possibly be as good as what's on the shelf in Walmart or what you buy from Amazon.
Mm-hmm. 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 I understand. We go through the same thing. Yep.
I I I don't. Sometimes maybe you can change people's minds. I mean, I could spend an hour talking about the difference between a bottle of Tuskegee honey. Yes, I have bottles of honey. Yes.
I need to get mine too. I love me some
Yeah,
honey.
and what you buy in Walmart. Because the
Yeah.
question, why is a why is this little teeny bottle of honey? Why is
Mm-hmm.
it $8
Mm-hmm.
instead
Mm-hmm.
because all the work was done by hand. There's no chemicals involved.
Right.
We I'm as ethically kind to my honeybees as I can be. Although the ones that sting me, well, that's pretty much the end of their life anyway. Um, Sometimes it's an uphill battle that maybe just can't really be fought. I mean, create a good product, people will like it, and the rest will follow. But people already
Yeah.
have built-in biases because either I'm a woman farmer or a black farmer, so it can't possibly be as good. I don't really know how to help those people. I mean, I don't know what
Right.
to say.
Yeah, just not your customers, unfortunately. But we know there are millions of more people who do value a quality product than even the purpose of it, which kind of my perspective now is bringing more of the purpose of why you would patronize, Tuskegee honey over any other company. Because that purpose has to be involved in our buying decisions now too. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that perspective. What are your thoughts, James?
Yeah, I mean, this is our first season of putting product in the market. We did do a test run with soaps last year with Mother Josie's Blueberry Leaves, which the soap is really good soap. But I think using Mother Josie as an example, like, she has 2.5 acres of blueberry trees or bushes. Just, I'm going to guess hundreds of thousands of leaves at the end of the season fall on the ground. And I
Mm-hmm.
this year, me asking her to buy leaves, we actually discovered those leaves are $2.50 an ounce to $5 an ounce, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she had never really thought of those leaves as a product. They were just on the ground. They'd be thrown away. They'd be moved out of the way, or they naturally fertilize the trees for next year. I think the biggest challenge that Black farmers have is going from growing something to making it a product.
Mm.
A farmer that called me one year that had hundreds of organic yellow watermelons. And I've tasted them. They were delicious. But his point was, I can't move them. Like here in Tuskegee, I just don't have the capacity. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
put them in a truck, bring them to Atlanta, we'll sell them. He was like, brother, I can't, I'm a farmer. Like I got to work. I get up at crack of
Yeah.
dawn. You can't
Yeah.
get a truck and drive to Atlanta for a weekend and sell the watermelons. And so that's an example. Mother Josie's an example of being able to go from I have successfully grown something to how do I get it in a product. And when I
Right.
look at if I sell it to a person who's going to turn it into soap, then we're business partners almost, right? I'm getting some value, they're getting some value. And so, again, the original vision of bringing entrepreneurs to Tuskegee to work with Tuskegee honey and give her a fair price, then make it a shampoo, a honey shampoo or soap, like everybody benefits. And I think that is one of the bigger challenges for Black farmers. They're so busy farming, turning it into a product,
Right.
e-commerce, sales, social media. They don't have the support, the team to actually make that happen often.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's dive a little bit more into that because that will show us again the supply chain partners that are needed. Transportation's in that category, packaging's in that category. It's really what makes that whole industry function. So, what research or infrastructure is needed to transform the farm grown ingredients into high performance beauty products? Also, you just mentioned transportation, even with mentioning Akuba, the cosmetic science side, like people who actually know how to design formulations to request these ingredients needed. But what other pieces of infrastructure do you see like need to be in place to actually make this happen?
Well,
I would say, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
no,
James.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I would say, for example, very early on last season, I got a phone call. Somebody reached out to me, and they're a bottler, they're a beverage company, and they wanted to purchase 1,000 pounds dried hibiscus. And I was like, woo wee, because we sell hibiscus for, I think I sell $15 a pound. So even if I gave them a discount, that's a nice sale. But ultimately, it came down to I cannot ship out of the state of Alabama dried hibiscus unless it comes out of a certified kitchen, which is so perplexing to me. And I have taken this up the food chain, so to speak, with the folks that in Montgomery at the Capitol Department of Agriculture. Every bit of imported hibiscus dried into this country, we all know is not processed in a certified kitchen. But yet, American hibiscus growers, to sell outside the state boundaries, it has to be processed in a certified kitchen. So one of these days, hopefully sooner rather than later, is finding a grant to pay for and assemble a certified kitchen and all the things to go along with it. It was suggested that we could work with the Department of Agriculture to try to change the policy, the laws regarding shipping outside of the state. And so it could take years, but it's not impossible, but it could take a while. It'll probably be a lot quicker for me to come up with funds somewhere along the way for a certified kitchen. But that still doesn't solve the problem of other small hibiscus growers. I mean, 600 to 1,000 plants. Yes, you could conceivably produce 1,000 pounds dried, but if you still don't have access to a certified kitchen, you basically limited your sales within the state of Alabama. But that does not apply to fresh. But also fresh hibiscus has to be cold transported. So now you're talking about a refrigerated truck going across, from Tuskegee to Colorado. That's going to add to the cost. So
interesting. So if someone has a certified kitchen or access to one in your area, could you partner with someone like that too?
I've explored that, particularly within the scope of the grant context, where I'm supposed to come up with the answers to these questions for other farmers. There's some logistical issues that would have to be worked out. First of all, if you transport, let's say 200 pounds of hibiscus to a certified kitchen for drying, it takes at least 8 hours to dry at 140 degrees. So that means you are leaving your product unattended. You now are going to have a gap in the chain of custody. If, let's say, a maintenance worker comes through and, who left the oven on? Click, turns the dryers off. Or if something happens to that product, it's been out of your sight. So it's conceivable. And could that happen? Maybe I'm just a little, overcautious. But it's a reality.
Yeah.
So
quality control for sure.
I don't know. Yeah, that it's an option. But if I were handing you, I thought I had one on my desk. If I were handing you this package, which has hibiscus tea bags in it that I produce,
Mm-hmm.
if for 8 hours I knew where my product was, I wouldn't hand it to you. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, because if, and then there's also product liability insurance that I encourage every farmer to have, because you never know. And the example of product liability insurance with honey, which I have, but a lot of people who sell honey don't, if I use glass bottles. So there's actually a documented case where, this was what my insurance guy told me. Yes, we sanitize the glass bottles when they come from the factory.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
by some crazy reason, little shards of glass end up in that honey. I wouldn't even see it. I wouldn't know. Maybe it breaks up after. Okay, so somebody ingests the honey and you don't have product liability insurance. Now you've got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Sometimes my friends say, Jackie, you think up the worst case scenarios of what happened, but
yeah.
I do that and we avoid any drama.
Yes. Yes, rightfully so. You're protective over your crops, and it sounds like you need full ownership of the entire production process. Like that would have to be part of what the setup is. So it's either building your own or partnering where you would still be able to have that full ownership of the production.
Yeah. Probably your only other option might be to sleep overnight at the commissary kitchen.
Yeah. Whatever it takes, right?
But this goes back to the idea that, a lot of these companies, they have no idea what they're buying.
Mm-hmm. Right, because if you're getting it on Amazon, I mean, do you know where it's coming from?
They have gasoline in it. It could have been treated with, they tell you it's organic. Like, you have no idea. And what I found is, if you're making a luxury product, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jackie's caution of, I know I put the seed in the ground, I watched the plant grow, I watered it, I kept it, I protected it from deers, I harvested it, I dried it, I'm putting it in a package and I'm sending it to you. Like, that's the level of care you want to have a luxury product.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so it's though she is very cautious, in my mind, she is a luxury, right? Most she's the 2% of the farmers who actually care that much about their product.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is special to me. And I think her point of having government on our side, having politicians that help make it easier for farmers like Jackie to be able to ship directly and, keep part of the revenue. I mean, that is super important. I think the other side of that, in my opinion, is really valuing the speciality of what can be grown. Like, if I find a special hibiscus, I mean, this is my first year actually putting things in the ground in Tuskegee, but I have a feeling I could go to Jackie and say, look, I have a client, they want this version of hibiscus. They want a white hibiscus flower that traditionally is grown somewhere. If I took it to her, I would trust that she would be a person who could help figure out how to have a special ingredient that makes your product really special. Versus generically saying, I'm just buying hibiscus. Most people don't know really what that means,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that is what we have to. We have to educate the product maker on the value. In wineries, fly people out to the winery. They have a wine showroom. They walk you through the process. They spend time making sure you appreciate what they have. There is not a lot of visibility for that with our Black farmers, right?
That's interesting. So on that note, well, James, I know you do a lot of tours or you host people. Is that something that's possible? Like, people could come tour the farm, get an appreciation of everything that they would be potentially sourcing from you all?
For Josie's farm, she does have hours posted on her website. And so for the blueberry farm, absolutely. And she has you pick it for like 2 months where you can come out there and pick blueberries and sit down and talk and have a good time. For Beauty Farm, it'll probably be late summer before you can actually see product, because we're clearing on March 16th, another 8 and a half. We're getting the soil ready. I got to build this, as Jackie's telling me, or the deer. And I see deer on my property. Like, I know they're going to try to think it's a buffet and come out and eat all the fresh things. So we have some building to do. So it'll probably be April or May before a lot of things go into the ground. So they won't come to the farm, but there's just not a lot to see until probably early summer, midsummer.
Okay.
And yes, I do take entrepreneurs down quarterly. I've done 12 trips so far. Those will probably be only 3 or 4 trips this year at best, just because we're building out the farm. But I am happy to have people work through that. And then I know this summer, Mother Josie's hosting a harvest festival, probably in July. It used to be called the Blueberry Festival. I think that's going to be every other year, and then every other year there'll be a harvest festival. But we'll try to share that information so you can put it in the network. So people who are in the area, they're more than welcome to come by and hang out, listen to music, and talk about blueberries and flowers and stuff like that.
Awesome. Yes.
Maybe come by Jacqueline's and get some honey and talk about this on her phone as well.
Yes. We'll definitely have to get that scheduled. She's saying.
His timetable is correct. Like, we'll be getting hibiscus in the ground. Well, at least be getting around starting in April, some in May. But the plants really don't start producing the actual beautiful red calyxes for harvest till September-ish.
Okay. Got it. Well, it sounds like that'll be multiple times. Yeah, multiple times of the year we'll definitely have to see if we can arrange a trip or just make the links available for people to book, because we really want this to be a movement. We really want people to, we say get back to your roots, from a hair perspective. This is really getting back to your roots, through farming and just other parts of our culture that's kind of being reawakened, especially in the beauty industry and business. So it's it's definitely a purposeful time. And we do want to actively start building these different blocks of the supply chain. I'm very eager to see the first or the next beauty product that's sourced from you all. That would be very exciting. So we really want to motivate everyone to think creatively, and especially in your formulation plans, think about, starting to source with you all. I know I'm personally interested in growing something, so I'll take that offline. But I think there's a lot we can do in our own backyards, like literally. So we have a few more questions to wrap up the conversation. It's been really rich and informative already so far. But what would you say are what does it take for beauty brands to commit to long-term sourcing partnerships with Black farmers? Is it planning ahead? Is it knowing what you want to grow? Is it imagining what's possible with what you're already growing? What would you say are kind of the first things that beauty brands can do to start making this or start considering this as a long-term partnership?
I think you have to, at least for me, is reach out, have a conversation, and I would ask you, okay, so you're trying to make a body butter with beeswax. And so when I harvest the honey and I have the wax cappings, and once again, I don't treat my bees with any oxalic acid or any chemical treatments. So my beeswax is very pure. And I just usually melt it back down and put it back on the empty frames. But if there's something that you want, I need to know in advance, and then we can figure out a way to make that happen. Like right now, I'm growing African blue basil and chocolate mint and orange mint, because I know you can distill those. Well, the mints you can distill to their essence, and that's a value-added product. So yeah, I think knowing in advance what somebody wants. And I just started growing something called stinging nettle, which is a medicinal. And yeah, it lives up to its name because I ran my hand across a tray by accident. And the swelling went down after about an hour. And I was like, what is this? But turns out it's also a good plant for honeybees to help them with the things that with building up their resistance. So I've just got to figure out how to get down to the farm and put a big sign around it. But and aloe, we grow a lot. I grow a lot of aloe. So I think if farmers, if you know what somebody wants, then we can possibly grow it.
So anything's possible. It sounds like with the right planning and the right conversations.
Yeah, if you wanted tulips, if you wanted me to grow indoor hydroponic tulips, I need to know that in September, because we've got to source tulips and we've got to cold chill them in a refrigerator from about whenever we get them, September to January. We want them by Valentine's. Yeah, by Mother's Day, not Valentine's. So lead times are important to what you want, and I think maybe within your group, just ask what are they looking for, and then maybe you and James can, if you can have that list available or send it out to farmers and say, hey, we've got a group and 100 pounds of aloe, fresh aloe plants.
Yeah.
Okay. See what we can come up with.
Yeah, definitely. And we do have a form that we are going to be sending out, because we do want to start orchestrating those type of orders. So, and that's what really takes these conversations to contracts. And that's how we start, moving forward and moving along in this agenda. What would you add to that, James?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a couple farmers in Tuskegee. I think they are risk averse. So they don't want you to say, I need 500 pounds of something, and you grow it, and they go like, oh, I ordered off Amazon. Like, there needs to be a payment. There needs to be a commitment, because they are the ones who get up in the middle of the night and shoo the deer away, or when there's a hailstorm, it's like they're doing that work. And so I think it's what you need is not just a conversation. You need some level of commitment or agreement or prepayment to move forward. I had a farm that says, look, if they will cover the cost of the seeds of my labor, like, I'll give it to them at an amazing price, because I need customers. I grow enough by myself hoping to sell it later. I really need to know I can pre-sell something. And so that's sort of one thing. I think something else that's needed is I'm waiting for these beauty makers to come up with a collection of products or a particular type of product, and we own it. So I'm a chairman of the board for Truly Living Well Farm in Atlanta. It's the largest urban farm in the city of Atlanta. It's a nonprofit. And we have persimmon trees. And so we have seniors that come by and ask for persimmons, and we let them pick as many as they want. And we had a bunch of leaves. And so I saved a lot of the leaves because I brought some home in a big bucket. And I was looking up, like, what can you make out of persimmons? And it says, oh, persimmon soap is just valued in Asia. And so apparently when you get older, your body chemistry changes and you have what's called a quote unquote old person smell. Apparently made with persimmons and persimmon leaves rechanges your body chemistry back to where you smell amazing. And so some of those bars of soap, I think we're selling for $15 or $18 a bar. And so I know that I have Native American persimmons and wild persimmons on my property. I see them all the time. I'm waiting for somebody to say, I want to make a persimmon leaf product. And then that gives me, and I can build a relationship, I will plant more persimmon trees. Now, it may take years before I have a large abundance of them, but there are other farmers that have persimmons within Tuskegee. So we can begin to create a real market for that.
Absolutely.
But it really helps if somebody says, I want to be the king or queen of persimmon soap, in America.
Absolutely, yes.
That's when you really have an industry that you can make happen. And we see it in other areas. There are different trends in beauty where like aloe is the big thing, or certain ingredient for 3 years, this was the big thing. Like, to help Black farmers, it would be helpful if we get in alignment and say, collectively, we're going to own this lane for the next 5 years. It makes it worth everybody's while to actually get into that business,
Absolutely, yes. And I know a lot of people have those key ingredients in mind based on your research. Even researching ingredients based in Africa, that has been like a new, I'm not going to call it a trend, but it's like a more, again, purposeful way to kind of get into ancestral remedies too. And there's a lot of things, even like maybe that your family may have used growing up, or, just stories you hear of, right? Like, so, I think those are, definitely markers. And again, if we can just get ahead of what we know we can bring to market and own it, it absolutely becomes, it drives demand. It ends up driving demand because the industry now knows of, the specific benefits of this ingredient. And if you say it's specially sourced, from the beauty farm or whatever farm you form that relationship with, I personally think that's going to become very innovative. Similar to the farm to table movement in the food industry, the farm to shelf, for the beauty industry, I know that is pretty much a gold mine, especially again with the ingredient concerns that are rising, and wanting to, again, not have to buy these products from formulations that have been compromised, by corporations, whether it's driven by profitability or whatever the case may be, and use products that are, specially formulated for us or for specific needs. So we definitely hope to contribute to, that growing initiative and the pipeline of new product requests. So everyone, please, think about what you may want to start with. And we are going to distribute the form. We want you to, again, be introduced to new relationships that could help create the things that you have been envisioning. And I know we are so close on time. I have one last question that I wanted to close out with, because another special part of this is how HBCUs and the Black community as a whole can start to become hubs in the beauty industry again, or for the first time in most instances. But James, you did mention, the legacy of Booker T. Washington. Our culture, we have so many pioneers of inventors, like we have so many, like there's really no shortage of that. And, the HBCUs have done a great job in capturing that history, but I think there's so much more that we can do with it. So, I just want to know your closing thoughts. How can HBCUs and Black farms become hubs for agricultural science, cosmetic industry, product innovation? What are some ways that you think that can actually happen within our ecosystems?
I'll let Jacqueline go because she's thinking really hard about it. So,
thinking hard on this. I think, and I'm gonna say I probably had a conversation with a few people at Tuskegee. It probably means at some point reaching out to faculty in the College of Business. Also in the College, obviously, of Agriculture, and working with them to identify students and or coursework, or how we can have all these things intersect together. I know there is one professor, actually he works with us with the hibiscus products. With hibiscus. So he's had some graduate students develop different hibiscus cosmetics, made from dried and powdered hibiscus. So there's probably a little more reaching out and connecting with folks on campus, and then getting students and faculty involved. I think that would be a path, in.
So just direct outreach to the schools.
Yeah, I think the schools could play a role. Spelman is doing a lot of work around, the cosmetic sciences and that kind of thing, and willing to let students sort of take product from the field and validate it. But going back to Jacqueline's point of, universities usually have commercial kitchens. They usually have
Exactly.
access to grants where they can build a small space. And I think in Mother Josie's case and Jacqueline's case, I don't think they're looking at selling 1 million products. I mean,
Mhm.
small runs, small batches. And there are a lot of farmers that, they get 1,000 customers to give them, $10 a month or, $100 a year, and they're good. I mean, not all farmers need to try to make $1 million the first year. And so I think these Black led institutions could reach out and make resources available in the community that help students and entrepreneurs in that community uh, more successful, have access to markets,
Mhm.
do some research. I think all that is very, very possible. And you see other universities like Auburn University and the work they've been doing around catfish, where they're basically helping create Alabama as the catfish capital. Like they're building ponds and teaching students how to get ready to go work at some of these catfish farms. And so
Interesting.
University of Georgia in Griffin, Georgia has a bottling plant. If you are a Georgia farmer and you take an ingredient in like ketchup, you want to make ketchup, they can run up to 10,000 bottles for you and help you get all of your licenses and permits because their students are learning how to go from idea to actual product. So
Mhm.
other universities are doing that. I would encourage HBCUs to think about that, particularly as you think about endowments, right? You
Right.
want somebody to start a business and be worth 100 million so they can give back to the university. One last
Absolutely.
example I'll give, I believe this young lady attended Tuskegee University. She has a okra water product.
And
You
all
know what?
that. That's so cool.
Mm.
On Instagram, there was this big thing 2 summers ago where you would soak okra overnight and you would drink the water and it's really good for your skin and all these things. She took it to the next level. She blends it with pineapple juice and she is booming. Now,
Mm.
Mhm.
right, if she is not the top entrepreneur out of Tuskegee in the last 2 years, I don't know who is. But HBCU should want students to have successful products because again, it really offers them a pathway to have a long-standing endowment.
Absolutely. Yes. Great idea. Yeah. I even see that modeled out very well with Georgia Tech too.
Mhm.
It just depends on the origin of your school, which Georgia Tech's a technology school, right? They're North Ave Trade School. And with the HBCUs, a lot of them are agriculture based, right? Like not only Tuskegee, North Carolina, Agriculture and Technical University, right? FAMU, like I really do believe that this is at the roots of our institutions. Spelman is another incredible example with their cosmetic science program, because all these could be strategic partnerships together. And now we're getting products, from the ground into, the shelves and into the hands of consumers. And I really see just how much consumers have a affinity for that, right? So if we can help power more businesses to actually do this,
Yep.
I think we're headed somewhere. And it's only a multi-billion-dollar industry. So, any
Yeah.
closing thoughts? Yeah, any closing thoughts? And we're going to definitely start to spread the word. And I like to put action items on things. So I really do see this relationship with the schools, the farmers, entrepreneurs, that really starting to come to life. So, any final words of wisdom you would like to share tonight?
This has been enlightening. I mean, I didn't know all of this existed, and I was looking at your website. And I'm like, wow, this is like really cool. So I'm glad teams together.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, yes.
Yeah, my only closing remarks are thank you, Jacqueline, for participating in our first version of this. Hopefully
Yes.
there'll be more examples, and I plan to be in Tuskegee soon, so we'll come by the farm and say hello to you and buy some honey as well. And then, Candace, thank you for your leadership on this. I've sat in on some of the supply chain calls, and I just think giving people clarity and exposure is the first step.
Mhm.
You're right. We need to get 3 or 4 products out this season and let that build into 30 or 40 products and keep it moving. And of course, I'd like to thank the 4 mothers of Tuskegee, the ladies who sort of inspired me many years ago to hang in there. And they
Mhm.
continue to work in supporting this vision. So, yeah, thank
Mhm.
you, Tom. I appreciate it.
Yes, and thank you to both of you. I'm personally inspired myself, and James, you have really opened my eyes too to see again what's right in our backyards. God reminds me of that a lot, and I love to connect the dots. So I'm hoping to see a lot of fruitful things, come out of these alliances and these conversations. And I'm going to challenge us. Yeah, let's get 3 to 4 products going this year. Okay, I'm just going to put it out there. So if you're ready, please reach out to us. We're going to share all the relevant links, forms for you to submit, what you're interested in growing, as well as all the reference links tonight so you can get to know these amazing farmers, their initiatives, and just, more what's happening right in our own culture, in our own community. And we're really looking forward to see our ecosystems become stronger. So thank you both for joining, and we look forward to seeing this grow for sure. Take
Thank
care.
you very much.
Mhm.